waiting for someday? Ready to finally start living your best life right now?
You're in the right place. I'm David.
And I'm Wendy.
And this is the David and Wendy podcast. We're your life coaches here to move you from the excuses to action.
From mastering your mindset to finding real joy, we're keeping it real, raw, and maybe just a little ridiculous.
Let's get into it, Wendy.
Let's go, David.
Welcome back to the David and Wendy podcast. Today's episode is about ways we can help to build our self-confidence.
Yes, in the last episode of our podcast, we talked about what confidence is and how confidence can come from ourselves, which is intrinsic, or from others, which refers mostly to extrinsic. And when it comes from within, the intrinsic part, it tends to be more solid, if you will, longer lasting, much deeper, more authentic. It tends to last more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. When we seek outside approval for confidence along the way, eventually, we usually get into trouble with this. Probably you'll remember, I don't know if you do, but if this is your first time listening, last week I shared a story of how a teacher had told me after I'd been teaching for 18 years very confidently and told me and the whole building that I wasn't a good teacher. And that was an example of me relying on others to dictate how I felt about myself and what I was doing. So if you seem to be lacking confidence, or if you feel like you have lost confidence in some area of your life, there is definitely hope to regain that back. There's definitely strategies that you can use to really help with that, with building your confidence. So here's a few that I have found to be effective. And one of them is to make declarations. And I think it's important to state, with declarations or things that we say to ourselves, it's really fully believing it and really feeling into it. It's just a whole 100% buy-in to what it is you're saying. So for example, for me, declarations on my career, I am confident, courageous, and qualified. I speak at large conferences all around the world. I coach hundreds of people. I also use declarations regarding finances. I have all that I need and my finances are right where they need to be. Money flows to me like water rushes over the Great Niagara Falls. Declarations about my health. Every cell in my body is healthy and sparkling. I love to use that word. I don't know why, but I picture cells sparkling and clean. I am strong and fit and muscular. And I think you guys get the idea. But like I said, the important piece is really acting as if and believing it and knowing this is true. And it really does help build the confidence the more that a person says these things and really believes into it. Another strategy that I use for building self-confidence is reflecting on things. This I use like if something all of a sudden really, for some reason, my confidence takes a blow. It doesn't like it used to, but I often will go to things or something that I have done well, or I know that I do it regularly. And I know David talked about in the last podcast, the last episode, about just things that we just do mundanely almost. And for me, and by reflecting on those things that you do well, just automatically, it does help to build that confidence. It makes you really stop and think that, there are things I do really well and I'm good at it and I'm confident in it. And a couple examples for me are, like organizing in my home. I just love to do it. Don't look at my basement, but in our living space upstairs. Generally I'm very good at it. And people tell me, they'll say, wow, you've just got a knack for organizing. The other thing is for me is driving. And I say this cautiously, I have been in fender benders, but it was very early on. And the 2 times were not my fault, thank God. But driving, I really enjoy driving. And I have been told, which is extrinsically, that I'm a confident driver. Have people tell me that, you know. But I actually have a feeling of confidence when I am driving, even in inclement weather, and it shows by I just remain peaceful and calm. And I live in upstate New York, so the weather is, the winter months it can be pretty dicey. But I just remember, all the tips that my dad taught me many moons ago, actually just yesterday, but you know, how to drive defensively. And I just, when I'm driving, even if it's inclement weather, like I said, it comes back to me and I just remain calm. I've even had times where I can feel my car, swaying, and it's like, no, Wendy, you can do this. You've got a good handle on this. But without talking any more about that, just the idea here is a feeling in of being confident at something that you're good at. So
Yeah,
yeah.
it's so easy to forget the things that we've become, very efficient at. But in short, confidence is as everything else we experience, because it's all subjective, is what you think it is. So
Mm.
I've always loved Ford's quote, because it's just so direct and so succinct, where he says, if you think you can or think you can't, you are right. And
Oh, love that.
right, I know, and that's really, sums it up, right? That's your life experience, and therefore
Mm-hmm.
your confidence at its core.
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely.
so from that place or perspective, let's change what you think. Get
Mm.
out a piece of paper and write down all the things that you have done, and maybe even take for granted now, because you're 100% confident, and you don't even think about doing it.
Mm.
So make a list of that stuff, and you typically, those are things where you couldn't do them at all in the beginning, or maybe even very well in the beginning, and now you do them with confidence, even
Mm.
without thought, right? It can be staggering long list if you think about it. In the beginning, you learn to drink from a cup, right? You learn to crawl and
Mm-hmm.
then walk, and from there you learn to run, and yes, eventually you learn to tie your shoes. It just kind of builds on itself. Your learnings kind of come together like Lego blocks, and they build your capabilities when they're intrinsic, when you've built them yourself inside. And that's how you do that. You go back and you review all the things you did, including the things you take for granted now. You at one point did not know how to do them, all the simple things we do today,
Mm.
that are simple now, but weren't before. So remembering all the things that you have conquered so far and probably forgotten about is the way to build that intrinsic confidence, which is the
Mm.
the long lasting, the very your very strength comes from that, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. And so, am I understanding this correctly, David, that confidence definitely is built by doing something for the first time and then doing it again and again? So, really, you're practicing or honing your skills, if you will?
Exactly. Yeah,
Mm.
like the saying, practice makes perfect,
Mm.
or I like to say better, because nothing in life is perfect, right? That would be
Right.
boring.
Right. Right.
The things that you have proven to yourself and learned to do through repetition, again, build this intrinsic confidence. For instance, do you think someone could talk you out of your ability to tie your shoes?
Hmm. Well, let me think now, back to my experience of losing confidence in my teaching abilities. It was a case of I let what someone else said take hold within me. So if that's the case, well, I guess, if you let it penetrate your psyche, and then yes, you probably could let them talk you out of your ability to tie your shoes. I think about, we've all had a case where we trip and fell, and somebody will say, "Oh, first day walking."
Right, right, yeah.
Kind of, but with all joking aside, it does seem silly, but the power of words, even more importantly, being in control of the portal of your mind. Ooh, there's a Ralph Waldo Emerson quote. But if we let those things take hold in our mind, then I suppose we could let somebody talk us out of anything. But
Yeah.
yeah.
And the more we build that intrinsic confidence, the less likely somebody's going to talk you out of something.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So we hope that you all have a better understanding of a few strategies of how you can definitely boost your self-confidence.
That's right. And next week, we are talking about, are you a people pleaser? All right. That's the show for this week. We hope you are feeling motivated, like you're ready to take on the world.
If you got value today, do us a huge favor. Like and subscribe and leave us a review. It helps us reach more people just like you.
You can find all our info in the show notes and connect with us at our website, thedavidandwendypodcast.com.
We'll see you next week. And remember, always be kind, loving, and compassionate to everyone you meet.